Good morning, Filipino Americans of San Antonio, Texas. Welcome back to USAPANG FIL-AM with CHONA. So, today, ang segment po natin is another segment, back to election, the upcoming election this coming May. And I would like to remind everybody again that the early voting is kicking off on the 19th of April and will run through the 27th. So we are doing these segments, to cover different candidates, from the city council and the mayoral candidates of San Antonio to get to know them better, so that it would be a lot easier for our kababayans to make the sound decision on who they should support, to sit there and serve San Antonio. So today, what I have here is one of the candidates running for city council in District 2. And he is also one of the members of our Filipino American community. Let's welcome Mr. Andrew Fernandez VICENCIO. Good morning.
Much love, sis. Thank you for having me.
All right. How are you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. Thank you. All right. So, but I'm going to be asking you questions, for our kababayans to see,
Sure.
To get to know you a little bit more and why they should support you for District 2. But first, mga kababayan, of course, I will read a little bit of his bio for you to get to know him a little bit more. All right? So here is Mr. Andrew Fernandez VICENCIO. This is what I have. He was born in Manila, Philippines. He moved to Toronto, Canada for 3 years. Moved to San Antonio, Texas in 1972. He attended school at W.W. Watt Elementary on the east side, attended Harlandale Middle School and 1 year high school, graduated from MacArthur High School. He was a nurse's aide for 1.5 years, for a year and a half.
Year and a half, yes.
He worked with the city of San Antonio from 1996 to 2000. What exactly did you do?
Well, first of all, I started off at the municipal courthouse. I was a records clerk. I got the transmittals and the tickets and so forth, and I handed that to the cashiers when they needed them. Then I got promoted to community initiatives. It was under the San Antonio Education Partnership, which actually was a program that kept at-risk kids in school by promoting a scholarship with them, having them attend minimal attendance and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then they got a partial scholarship. So once they graduated high school, they had about several $100s at their disposal if they met the educational GPA and the attendance requirements. Then I got promoted to solid waste division as an admin assistant too on their payroll division. And also I'm a graduate of UTSA, and I also have an MBA from Webster University.
All right. Now you say it says here you rejoined the U.S. Army in 1998.
Correct.
When say rejoined, so when was the first time you joined them?
I was actually in from 90 to 91, and then I got off active duty and I completely got out of the Army, and then I jumped back in. At my father's advice, he pulled me to the side and said, "Look, you need to join the Army again." So I jumped back in 1998, and I did not look back. And then 9/11 happened, and pretty much the rest is history as far as me going to Afghanistan and so forth. And
okay, so it says
finishing my career.
Operation Enduring Freedom Combat, a veteran.
Correct.
Afghanistan.
Correct.
So you've been there for 16 months.
Yes, I was in Afghanistan for 16 months. That's correct.
And you've been in Iraq for a month.
Correct.
Right?
That's correct.
So you went from private first class to lieutenant colonel.
That's right. Yeah, I went from literally from the bottom all the way to the top, or close to the top.
All right. So after 22 years of service, when you retired from the U.S. Army.
That's correct.
When did you retire?
I retired. It was official. My retirement certificate, I got it in the mail April 2020.
All right. So it says here that you ran for mayor in 2001.
That's correct.
What happened?
I jumped into that race because I was aggravated with the construction along my street that had been going on for like almost 3 months now. So I decided, and I knew I wasn't going to win that race. I mean, it was 12 candidates. I'm jumping in late. I mean, 6 weeks before election day, you're not going to win any race with only 6 weeks unless you're something of a miracle master type candidate. But I jumped in to make some noise about the street that was not being fixed. So finally, after the race, ironically enough, the street got fixed faster. And then I jumped into, I ran for state rep in March 2020.
Mm-hmm.
I garnered about 30% of the vote there, but I had very limited staff. I only spent $1,000 on the campaign, but I still garnered 30% of the vote. So, but I wasn't that well known either in that race. But so that's why I jumped into this race, because I'm very concerned about the direction of District 2.
How many times have you run in the District 2?
This is my first time running.
This is your first time in
Yes.
for city council.
That's correct. Very, very first time in any type of city election in my life.
And you are running against how many other candidates?
There are
in
11 other
District 2?
candidates in the race, total of 12, including me.
Okay, and how confident are you that you're going to win over them?
I'm pretty confident. I think I can make some inroads and make some improvement in the districts and so forth, and they definitely improve the public safety and the community in District 2.
All right, let's talk about that. I want to hear about your agenda. If you were the councilman.
Well, first of all, let's circle back to what's going on at the border. So, we're bringing illegals up here, and it's putting a strain on the infrastructure, particularly in District 2. You're putting them in the Freeman Coliseum as one place, and then Lackland, I think, is the other place that they want to put the illegals in.
Mm-hmm.
You need to keep them down there at the border, because first of all, what makes sense is that you need to vet them first. I mean, people can be sick. Our COVID cases are going down. Now we're bringing people here that we haven't vetted yet health-wise. Now we're putting a new strain on our infrastructure and our health structure. And let me add something to it. The county judge comes along and says, no, Sheriff Salazar, we're going to put him in the Freeman Coliseum anyway. But the sheriff said, no, let's not. I don't want to do that, because he was concerned about putting a strain on the infrastructure and on the schedule of the sheriff's department and their infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what happened there. Now, let's door hinge back and circle back to public safety. Crime has increased overall in San Antonio by 34%. We are number 4 in the Wall Street Journal as far as crime being increased here on violent crime and property crime. If you don't have a stable community as far as public safety goes, and if you try and defund the police, it'll translate into small business not wanting to come here. Stable residential folks that want to buy a home here will not want to buy a home here, which eventually will translate and ripple to no money for education and community initiative. So it's like dropping a pebble in a pond, and you're sending this shockwave across the pond. That's why I'm running primarily.
What else is in your agenda?
Well, also using a conduit, since I am a veteran, reach out to the homeless veterans and to get them registered with the VA and help them try to find a home and help them get the health services they need instead of depending on the city to do it. The VA is right here. And also, let me circle back on another thing. We're helping illegals first. Why are we not helping our homeless citizens first, or our homeless kids first?
Mm-hmm.
What happened to them all of a sudden? I talked to a homeless guy. I was handing out food plates over the summer at an East Side park, and I handed him a food plate, and I asked him, "What's your biggest concern here? What do you think about all of this and so forth?" You know what he said? He said, "Why are we helping illegals first? I'm an American citizen. Why is no one helping me first?" And I go, "That's a great question. By the way, here's your food plate." I found that just very. I was like, wow.
So what do you suggest the first step that should be taken to address that?
As far as the homeless go,
Mm-hmm.
well, first of all, we have to look at the budget. We built a land bridge over Wurzbach Parkway that cost $25 million. That only should have taken $1 million. Trust me, the deer and the raccoon are going to find their way in a narrower bridge. They're smart critters. They know what to do. We could have used some of that money, possibly for soup kitchens, possibly build a new facility away from residential areas and a place where, earlier in the earlier interview, what Miss Homer said in her interview, that temporary housing for homeless, but they eventually need to find a job, because eventually you need to get on your own and so forth. And let me caveat off that this current city council, and particularly the incumbent in District 2, either she wasn't there to vote against it, or she was there to vote for it. They paid an individual, a contractor, 6-figure salary from San Francisco to solve our homeless problem. So you hire someone from San Francisco who's got a worse homeless problem to solve our homeless problem. That doesn't make any sense. Now, if you cookie cut it and you paid him, let's say, I think they paid this individual $128,000. Let's cookie cut it into 4 parts. Why don't you hire 4 homeless guys at $40,000 each and ask them how to solve the homeless problem? Who knows the homeless problem better than the guy that has been living on the street? And then you pull four homeless people off the street and you give them employment. They got money, and now all of a sudden they have money to pay for an apartment and to buy themselves food and pay utilities.
What are the main issues that you think need an immediate attention in district 2, in your district?
Well, first of all, it's public safety, because right now the San Antonio Police Department right now has 2,380 officers, 600 of which are eligible to retire right now. And if Proposition B passes, and oh, by the way, I will vote no on Proposition B and Proposition A. If Proposition B passes, which would be a tragedy, I can't even believe these propositions are even on the ballot. But if Proposition B passes, other officers that are on the force will look for greener pastures. They're going to look for federal jobs. They're going to look for other police jobs around the nation. They're not going to want to stay here. San Antonio Police is one of the best trained police forces. And before the George Floyd incident, they were getting kudos and pats on the back. All of a sudden, the liberal media comes along and spins the George Floyd, praise on people's emotion and so forth. And George Floyd died in the wrong way. He was murdered by a bad police officer, okay? But the liberal media decides they're going to focus in on the 1% of bad police officers. We have 99% good police officers that are fathers and mothers that educate themselves, they raise kids, and they're just stellar citizens of the community. And also they're part of our tax base and part of the stability of the community and so forth. If Proposition B passes, you are going to have something analogous to like the gangs in New York, or let me give you a live reality, like Chaz, or the zones that were constructed in Portland, where people were basically extorted. Oh, if you want our protection, you're going to have to pay us more money. And look how that all worked out. That didn't work out at all. Now, part of the city council in Seattle is regretting defunding their police department. As one example, that is one of the huge priorities right here, because public safety, like I said, sends a ripple effect to the community. And if you don't improve it, the community is going to get destabilized. That's why you have a police force, because they enforce the Constitution and rights and so forth. I mean, if you don't have a police force to enforce the law, well, all you're going to have is pretty much chaos and extortion is what you're going to end up having.
Well, aside from public safety issues, what other areas you will be focusing on? Well,
we have to have oversight of the budget. Like I said, we already talked about the land bridge. We'll talk about the $80 million spent on 3,000 homeless. Well, guess what, Chona?
3,000 homeless.
We spent $80 million to solve the 3,000 homeless that we know of that are in this city. Okay,
how about in your district?
No. Well, I think this is citywide, but I think there's but that's just an estimated number. There's probably more homeless, but the fact is where did this money go to spend on the homeless? Where did it go? Nobody knows. You have to have oversight of the budget, and I think a lot of the other city council candidate contenders are saying the same thing. Where is the oversight and transparency on the budget? We're too much wasteful spending at every facet, whether it be hiring outside contractors to solve our problems, building land bridges that don't need to cost that much, spending on homeless. It just goes on and on. And then something else on my agenda also: fair zoning. Not far from Government Hill. I'm not sure exactly the exact location. There was a 48-unit condominium that was built. The contractor, developer, only built 44 parking spaces. Well, these 4 other people approached the mayor and said, "Well, where are we going to park?" The mayor said, "We'll just park out on the street." Okay, so that ripples effects into the residents now going, "Why are you parking in front of my house? Where are my guests going to park?" See what I'm saying? I mean, the careful transparency and the equitability and the fairness of zoning and so forth is not here at this current city council. It's not. They're idolizing the whims and being loyal totally to developer instead of having a balance between what the residents of the neighborhood have to say and the developer has to say.
And what specific resolution do you have in mind to address that?
We're going to have fairness. We're going to have transparency. We're going to have open council discussion on all as far as zoning goes, as far as between the residents and the developer. No more will the developer have an unfair advantage. To me, that's what's been happening. I'd say at least the last 4 to 6 years, that's what's been happening. Okay, so as far as veterans and homelessness go, as far as homeless veterans, I'm going to reach out to them. As far as my city council office will have a service there where a homeless veteran, if he wants to walk in and reach out to the VA, connect them directly to the VA, and have them get the information that way. I mean, instead of just relying on the city, that we can be like an information highway to direct them to the Audie Murphy and hopefully they can somehow retrieve their DD-214 because they're going to need their DD-214 to register with the Audie Murphy Hospital and so forth. So that's and as far as just regular homeless goes, I mean, in my district office, we'll have a center there to try to address that issue as well as trying to get them into a jobs program, trying to get them temporary housing and so forth.
All right. Now, like what we mentioned earlier, you are running against 11 other candidates, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, what makes you better than all other candidates?
Well, I've not only served my nation. By serving your nation, you're serving your community and so forth. Because when you serve your nation, you're protecting your community. I'm ready to. If I win this office, I have a diverse staff that will address certain issues, such as having one individual that's going to reach out to the youth in the district. As far as, because when you're 18 to 24 years old, you have a lot of testosterone, and you have a lot, and I mean, when you're young in general, both male and female, you need activities to do something. Well, everything is closed right now.
Yeah, because
you
of the
have
pandemic.
yeah, you have to open up. I mean, yeah, okay, CDC standards, will but the governor has already said you can open up. People need an outlet, especially the young kids need an outlet and an activity to do something. If you keep them closed up and locked up after school, they have nothing else to do. Well, they get a little restless, and before you know it, they run into each other on the street. They look at each other the wrong way, and before you know it, you have a shooting incident, and it's on KSAT News. Our last snow event that we had, why wasn't there an emergency operations center? I've lived up north for 6 years. There were blizzards. We didn't have a blizzard. Yes. And the blizzards I was in had visibility of only 1/4 of a mile. But guess what? I was still able to get to the grocery store and buy something. And the shelves were not empty. Why was it down here all of a sudden we got like paralyzed? We weren't in a blizzard. We had visibility. Why were grocery store shelves empty? I waited 2.5 hours to get 2 12-inch Subways for me and my mother. 2.5 hours. And the guy at Subway was announcing, okay, we're only down now to 20 pieces of bread. 15 minutes later, okay, we're down now to 15 pieces of bread. And so forth. Mayors are presidents of their cities. You just don't sit there and do nothing. And I'm DISCA certified from when I was with the Army. That's Defense Support for Civil Authorities. Why didn't we reach out to the military for help? The military and the federal level and FEMA will not act because they will not violate the local sovereignty of the city without the municipal judge or municipality judge or the mayor asking for federal help, a la the military. So if you don't ask them for help and you don't move, well, they're not going to move. They're not going to violate your sovereignty unless you reach out and ask them for help. There's a current city councilwoman who's in District 7 who's got an MIT diploma. Well, where were your neurons then? Where was the Emergency Operations Center? Come on, Miss MIT graduate. Think of something. Don't just sit there and do nothing. And oh, by the way, why did SAWS turn off the water? Why didn't the mayor pick up the phone? He's got a phone, right? Pick up the phone and say, hey, Chief CEO of SAWS, don't turn off the water. Because if you turn off the water, you can't let the faucets leak. And guess what? If there's no cold water leaking through the faucets, that's just basic plumbing common sense. You're going to break the pipes. And on top of that, you won't have any water. Am I correct that you didn't have any water for a few days, sis?
Is it because they turn it off?
You can't turn off the water; they bust the pipes.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, you're saying that sauce intentionally turned the water off?
I don't know what happened, but they shouldn't have turned off the water.
So we don't know. We don't know if they did turn the water off or we didn't have any water because the pipes are frozen, right?
Well, I had water.
So they did not turn it off.
I mean, they turned it off in parts of the city. So I mean, why did they do that? I don't understand that. You can't paralyze the city, and did your pipes bust? Is that why your water?
No.
Okay.
It's just.
But the water was off.
Frozen. So we have a little bit of flow,
Right.
but not a lot.
But for those that know, I mean, you have to let the faucets leak a little bit so the pipe doesn't bust.
Mm-hmm.
But to turn off the water in parts of the city, I mean, it didn't make any sense.
And that's what I want to know. Because I didn't know that they intentionally turned it off. That's why you caught my attention when you said that sauce turned it off.
Yeah, they turned it off.
Is
in
that
parts of the city.
really what happened? You have proof that that's what really
Well, that's
happened?
what some of my friends around the city told me.
Okay.
So, but it goes back to the fact that it's analogous to what happened in New Orleans. Okay? So you saw the pink on the Doppler radar. The weatherman already said 5 days before we might have a possible freeze.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why didn't we have snowplows ready to go? I mean, why didn't we reach out to the state and TxDOT for that? Or why wasn't the city just prepared to have at least one or two snowplows where you can mount on the bumper of a public works truck to plow the snow, to clear some of the main arteries of the city, so that the trucks that deliver the commerce and the groceries to the grocery stores can fill the shelves? Why wasn't that done? I mean, up north, it's always done. It's really easy and so forth. So I don't know why these things were not done. That is my question. You need to kind of think on your feet. It's just like New Orleans. Ray Nagin saw Katrina covering half the Gulf of Mexico 7 days prior. Before the hurricane hit landfall, he had time to prepare. He didn't prepare. Instead of having 100 school buses using that to transport the people that were seeking refuge at the Superdome and transport them safely out of the city, the school buses ended up underwater, and so forth. And I wasn't in New Orleans, but we had oversight of that operation, and the FBI broke into the motor pools of the Army Reserve and National Guard motor pools, and they broke in and used our Humvees because their cars were underwater. So we had to send in our people to retrieve our own property and say, "Hey, FBI, can we have our Humvee back now? Because we need them too." And so finally they got their vehicles. And as our people retrieved our Humvees all along I-10 and some of the major thoroughfares, there were live and dead alligators and live and dead snakes because the storm surge blew in all the critters. So let's circle back to San Antonio. Why? It's the same question I'm still asking. It's why weren't we prepared? We always got mass texts for COVID numbers and COVID deaths and COVID alerts. Okay, where was the alert when this snow event was happening?
Mm-hmm.
That's my question.
Okay.
Do I have the answer to it all? No, I mean, I don't. But I'm just asking the question myself because I'm a citizen too.
Mm-hmm. As if you were sitting as the councilman for District 2, you could have done something.
Well, in the military, you have an emergency alert roster. So the main person that's on duty, you should have at least one council person that's carrying a BlackBerry. In inclement weather or a severe event hits, they get the call. They call the rest of the council people and the mayor. Hey, something's up. You got to come in.
So basically, after everything that you said, we can safely say that one of your main focus in your agenda is the emergency readiness program.
Oh yeah, well, an emergency operations center, definitely. That has to be. Or you're right. You can refer to it that way also. But yes.
All right. Well, I'll give you the camera for you to send your message to all our kababayans here in San Antonio, especially those in District 2.
Oh, kumusta po? Hola San Antonio and hello. Again, thank you for having me, and I appreciate your vote, Andrew Fernandez Vicencio for City Council District 2. And go to my website, andrewforsa.com, and I'm also on Facebook, Andrew Vicencio. That's VICENCIO, and you'll see my platform and bio there. And anybody that's living in District 2, I appreciate your vote. And if you know people in District 2, please refer them and to vote for me. And if you need anything, my number is on the website. And if you want to talk to me and discuss things more, I'll be more than happy to answer your phone calls or your emails, and we'll go from there. And thank you again for having me, and thank you for your attention.
All right, Andrew, thank you so much for taking the time to sit with me here today.
Oh, salamat po, sis.
For our kababayans, to get to know you a little bit more.
Thank you.
And so, this is it. No? Yun lang po ang ating mga detalye para kay Mr. Andrew Fernandez Vicencio para sa District 2 City Council. Once again, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in here at the USAPANG FIL-AM with CHONA. Good morning.